So just about everyone watching this video is probably familiar with the brand Champion, especially their generators. Champion makes a whole lineup of really phenomenal generators. They make really small ones to really large ones. In front of me, you were looking at one of the largest inverter generators that I've ever seen from the folks over at Champion. This thing is absolutely cool, and it's got a tremendous number of features that will really benefit those of you who are RVing and really looking to power just about everything on your RV. Let's take a closer look at this. Hang tight. I'll be right back. So I want to first give a big shout out to the folks over at Champion Global Power Equipment for providing this generator for review and evaluation on the channel. This thing is a beast, and if you were looking at one of the largest portable inverter generators you can get, this is probably something that should be on your radar. Mainly because the inverter aspect of it is really going to make this thing super quiet. 64 running decibels. That is insane how quiet this is for being able to pump out 11,000 starting watts, 9,000 running watts. Has a lot of really cool features built in, including safety features such as a CO shield. It's a carbon monoxide auto shutoff feature, electric push button start. You can use either propane or gasoline or a combination of both, where one runs out and you can switch it over to the other type of fuel. IntelliGauge, where it displays tons of information, 5 different modes to read information about the status of the generator, including voltage, how many hours it's been running, all of that information. And you get covered protected outlets. So if you have to use this in the elements, this is going to be something that can work for you because it is actually rated so it can be out in the elements. There is so much going on here, and if you were looking again for one of the largest inverter generators with a 50 amp connector on it, this is what you probably need to be looking at. Mainly because this should be able to run nearly everything on your RV. Now keep in mind, I'm saying nearly because if you look at the specs on this, you have to be very cautious that you still don't go over what those specs claim. For instance, you're going to have a 12-volt DC plug, standard old-fashioned cigarette lighter plug. You're going to have 4 120 outlets on here. You're going to have a 37.5 amp outlet here, and then a standard 30 amp outlet. So the 30 amp outlet is going to be for your smaller RVs or a circuit that just requires 30 amps. But as you can see, this, even though it's a 50 amp plug, it's rated at 37.5 amps. So this is not designed to be able to provide 50 amps worth of output to your RV. And in some cases, you're going to need that if you want to run everything, especially if you have 3 AC units. But with something like this, coupled with like a power management system on an RV, you should be able to run just about everything in your RV. And in some cases, you might even be able to run 2 AC units at the same time. Once we get this unboxed and we're able to actually put it together, get this thing connected to propane as well as put gasoline inside of it, we're really going to put this to the test to see what it can actually run. Now they have all the specifications here on the box. Gasoline starting wattage is 11,000, running wattage is 9,000 watts, propane starting wattage is 11,000, propane running wattage is about 900 watts less than gasoline at 8,100. Rated voltage, 120 or 240. Rated amperage, 75 or 37.5. Frequency, 60 hertz. Noise level, 64 decibels. That's going to be really cool to see how loud this actually is. Gasoline runtime at quarter load is 15 hours. Propane runtime at quarter load is 8 hours, which means you're going to get a little more than half of the runtime on propane versus gasoline. The engine size is 459 cc's. Again, gasoline and propane. Gas capacity is 6.08 gallons. Oil type 10W30. Oil capacity is 37.2 ounces. Okay, so we have this put together. This thing is a beast. It is a very large inverter generator. So you don't want to get this confused with some of the more compact ones that you might see. If you're looking at something that's probably in the 2 to 3 to 4,000 watt range, it's going to be significantly smaller than this. Just keep in mind, it might at most be able to power maybe 1 AC unit on your RV. In some cases, it can't even power that. This right here is a beast that can probably power just about everything on your RV at the same time, again, depending on what you're trying to power. Or if you have, 3 AC units, it's probably not going to be able to get them all started. Now, if you're running the Furrion Chill Cube with a variable speed compressor that ramps up very slowly with very minimal power draw, you may be able to start a couple of those off of this thing. We actually will have the opportunity to test that out because we have one Furrion Chill Cube on the Brookstone and we have another one on the Surveyor. So it's going going to be interesting to see whenever we get to the point of overpowering this. And I have the ability between the two RVs to run 4 ACs. So again, with the power management that's on the Brookstone, with the variable speed compressors on the Furrion Chill Cube AC units, it's going to be really interesting to see what we can get out of this really, really awesome Champion generator, especially the fact that it's super quiet, dual fuel, 11,000 watt startup, but again, 8,100 to 9,000 watts running depending on propane or fuel usage. Now, we have this thing put together, and the process of putting it together is relatively simple. Just keep in mind that it is very heavy. It's about a 200-pound generator. When you factor in the way the pallet, it's actually on 2 pallets. It's on that pallet, which is on that pallet. You add even more weight to it. So packaged weight's like 260 or 240 to 260 pounds, but the actual generator itself weighs about 200 pounds. To get it assembled, it comes with some little stand legs up here up front that require 4 bolts, and then you have a little axle that goes across the back that requires 4 bolts total, and then 2 bolts, one for each wheel to secure it. It wasn't difficult at all. Essentially what I did was I slid it forward on the pallet until it rocked up, and then I was able to put the back axle on. Then I did the same to the front, so I could put the front 2 feet in place, and then I just went to the back, put the wheels on, and screwed them in place. The entire assembly process of this probably took me less than 10 minutes. Adding oil is very, very simple. You simply open up this back hatch, your oil plugs down here, pull it out, add the entire bottle of oil that's included, which is 1.1 liters. And then on the front, you'll have this little flap that you need to open up. Once you do that, you'll see that your battery is disconnected. This is what you'll use to start up the generator. You also have a pull lever if you need to be able to use that instead. Maybe your battery's dead. But it's always a good idea just to keep your battery maintained, and it's a standard 12-volt, 11.2 amp-hour battery. So what we're essentially going to do is we are going to plug these 2 in. Once we plug this in, it'll connect the battery to the starter, and we'll have the ability to push-button start this. Okay, so now that we have it plugged in, you have fuel, fuel off, and propane on. If we turn it over to propane on, which we don't have any propane connected at the moment, we do have the hose connected to the front of the generator via the quick connect that's here, but you can see that it is ready to start. We have a propane can right here. We're going to go ahead and get it connected, get this thing fired up, and see how it sounds. Okay, so we are connected now. Going to go ahead and open up the fuel valve here on our propane tank. It is set for propane. We're going to go ahead and turn it on. Remember, you have to have oil in here. That's your spark plug removal right there. Comes with the Allen key, which is used for the wheels. This thing is insanely quiet. I mean, I'm not really raising my voice at all. And it is running right now. It might ramp up a little bit. Sometimes they do. I'm not sure if this one will. But the timer is already started. It's actually vibrating and moving slightly on the floor, but it is a smooth concrete surface. But this is absolutely insanely quiet. It really is. I'm not sure if you can tell by the video, but again, I'm not really speaking up, and you can easily talk over this. Now I'm going to move to the other side of the shop and see how loud it is. Okay, so from over here I can talk even quieter, and you can probably hear me just fine. This is a really, really great option for a lot of folks. Now, if you have a toy hauler, you probably already have a generator installed, but if you don't, this is a great option because you can always put it in the back of your toy hauler, which is going to be really nice. You have plenty of room. If you have some of those really innovative living room floor plans where they're elevated and you have storage underneath, you might be able to get away with putting this in there. If you have a back hatch, perhaps you can put it in. That would be a better option because it is relatively tall. But yeah, it is super, super quiet. Let's go over the dimensions of it real quick because I know a lot of folks are going to want to know if they can carry this with them and if it will actually fit in their RV when they're traveling, specifically in certain storage areas. So again, let's go ahead and check over the dimensions. We're going to shut it down by simply twisting it right there. So it is turned off right now. No problem at all. We do have our choke right here, which we didn't actually even need to open. So that's really nice. It started pretty much right up after a couple of seconds of pushing the start button. So real quick, now that we have it shut down, let's go over some of our connection points. We have our 37.5 amp connection right here, which is a traditional 50 amp plug. We have a 30 amp connection right here, which is not your traditional RV plug. So you can easily get a converter to convert from this 30 amp to an RV 30 amp. We have 120 volt outlets right here. You got 4 of them. And then you have a 12 volt connection right here. The only thing I don't see on here is a USB connection, which again, this is typically going to be used in the elements outside, possibly outside of your RV. So having USB on here is not probably going to be a big deal, especially considering you can simply plug a power supply with USB into these plugs right here or into your RV. You have your ground connection right here. And this does have the Carbon Shield carbon monoxide auto shut off feature, which is really nice. Right here is your choke. We didn't have to use the choke to start it, as you saw, which is pretty dang cool. And then right here are going to be your breaker resets for your 8 amp, 20 amp, and 20 amp circuits. So overall height is going to be just a hair under 29 inches. So if you have 29 inches of space, you should be able to make this fit. But yeah, it's a hair under 29 inches high. Okay, from a length perspective, we're not counting the propane connection over there simply because the propane connection is not going to be connected whenever you're stowing this, of course. But overall length, you're going to be right under 28 inches. And then the width, we'll measure from tire to tire, is going to be about 28 inches. So those are your dimensions, and if you have space for it, this is going to be a really good option. If you don't, you might still be able to use this as a really good option, especially if you can keep it in the back of your truck, perhaps if you're not hauling a fifth wheel, or you can find a storage location for it, because this beast is super quiet. It has a lot of safety features built into it. It's got a 50 amp plug on it, even though it puts out 37.5 amps, and runs off of propane or fuel, which means I can fill this thing up with fuel, run the fuel out, and then switch to propane, so whenever this goes back into storage, it's completely dry fuel, and I don't have to worry about it gumming up the carburetor if it sits in there too long or if I'm not using stable. So really, really great option for folks who are looking for a portable generator with a tremendous amount of power without having to link 2 generators together. This is going to be really cool to test out, especially considering the fact I have the ability to either try to run a single RV or both RVs off of this, including the air conditioning units off both RVs, which is a total of 4 AC units, plus whatever else we want to plug into it. So we're certainly going to put this to the test and see how it performs. But I'd love to know your feedback on this. What do you guys think? Did you all even know that Champion had an 11,000 watt inverter generator that is super, super quiet? If you got the room for it and you got the muscle to be able to get it into the back of your truck or wherever you're going to store it, this is a fantastic option. I know a lot of folks, again, with toy haulers might consider this a great option for powering their entire toy hauler, maybe in the event their Cummins Onan generator goes out on them, or perhaps they don't have one included on their RV, or perhaps they're just simply looking for an alternative to that generator. But let me know your thoughts. Drop a comment below. I will throw a link in the video if this is something you're interested in. Again, big shout out to the folks over at Champion for providing this for review and evaluation on the channel. We'll do a lot more testing with this in future videos. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.